My boyfriend lied about my ring and now I can't trust him. For Christmas, my boyfriend of 3 years bought me a gorgeous ring, not an engagement ring. He told me in great detail about how he purchased the loose diamonds from a local jeweler, recommended to him by a friend that gets them in Amsterdam, and had it custom made for me in platinum. I genuinely loved the ring, but I thought the diamonds were suspiciously large and odd that it was stamped 925, which represents sterling silver when he told me it was mounted in platinum. I did a little research and found out that it was a $1,200 moissanite ring in platinum over sterling, which I own a few pieces and he knows I love. He has done a lot of research on jewelry, so I'm certain he was not tricked. I am not a materialistic person at all, and he could have gotten me a ring from Walmart and I would have loved it because I attach sentimental value to gifts. He knows that. My problem is that if he would lie about something so trivial, what else would he lie to me about? I honestly can't even wear the ring because every time I look at it, I think about how he broke my trust and it makes me want to cry. Part of me feels like I shouldn't even bring it up since the ring still costs over $1,000, but I'm still just heartbroken since I always felt like he was a trustworthy person. Would you even bring it up? If so, how should I talk to him about this without sounding like a spoiled brat?
I, 25 female, have a 2-year-old son from a previous relationship. After I gave birth, I was asked about birth control. I said yes please, and now I have Nexplanon, a birth control that gets inserted into your upper arm. I was told it lasts 3 years. Cut to now, my fiance 27 male told me that he wants a baby. I said I did too, just not now, and that I'd get my birth control out after the 3 years are up and I won't replace it. This wasn't soon enough for him. He wanted me pregnant now. I stood firm and said I'm not ready to have another baby. I want to be a little bit more stable, money-wise and in general. Fiance was mad and we got into a big argument. I brought up my son and told him how my son sees him as a father figure and that we already have a child to take care of when my birth control runs its course. All of a sudden, he started shouting at me, saying he wanted a baby that's biologically his and that every time he looks at my son, he gets angry. I asked him why and he told me it's because he sees my ex in my son. My son looks a lot like his father. He then went on to tell me that he doesn't feel like a parental figure to my son. He has no personal attachment to him. He says it's because my son isn't biologically his and he resents us for this. Hence the baby talk. He wanted my arm implant out immediately. I said no way, I'm not ready for another baby yet. We continue to argue about this until I'm finally tired and frustrated, so I say I'm done arguing and just head into our bedroom. An important fact to know is that I take medication to sleep, a pretty strong medication with a high dosage. It knocks me flat on my ass. The Sandman comes and slaps me across the face, so I'm down for the count. After the argument, I take my pills and go to bed. My fiance was still in the living room when I fell into a deep sleep. Now, another important fact. My fiance knows where my implant is, as it's very noticeable when you're feeling around for it. I'm sleeping when I stir slightly awake after I felt fingers on my upper arm, prodding. With my eyes still shut, I tell my fiance to stop poking me. I assumed he was just being petty and childish because of the fight. He doesn't stop, and 5 seconds after poking me, he presses down in the exact spot my next one on is. At this point, I'm starting to get more alert and annoyed. I just wanted to sleep and I can't do that when I'm being jabbed. The minute I open my eyes, I notice that an object in his free hand, a box cutter, which was very close to my upper arm. Now I'm on full alert and ask him what the fuck he's doing. He immediately looks guilty and tries to throw excuses at me. I was just trying to scare you. I was just checking to make sure that you were alive and it's a coincidence I'm holding the box cutter. I called BS on every excuse and said I wanted the truth. He looked down and then told me that he was doing me a favor. What favor? Glad you asked. He was going to remove the Nexplanon from my arm. He said he's studied how to do it and he's confident that he can safely remove it. He said, we can start expanding our family now. No need to wait 8 months. I am livid. I immediately shout to him to get the F away from me and don't touch me. He tries to talk to me, but I keep yelling until he leaves. He can't stay at our house right now because he admitted that he was trying to cut into my arm, thus breaking my trust. Finally, he walked out of the bedroom and a minute later, I heard the front door open and close. It's been 3 hours and he still hasn't come back and I don't know what to do when he does. I don't know where we're going from here. I love this man dearly, but I don't think I can forgive and forget this. I don't know what to do. Please give me some advice. Part 2. My ex tried to cut my implant out while I was asleep. I ended up leaving last night with my son to stay at my mom's. I was confused, shocked, hurt, scared. I still am. At 7 this morning, my phone started buzzing like crazy. Texts, calls, voicemails, all were from him, asking me where I went and when I was coming home. I just don't even want to look at him or talk to him again. He called my mom while we were both sitting in the kitchen discussing everything. She asked me if I wanted her to answer it. I said I just didn't want to talk to him. My mom ended up answering and my ex was yelling, sounding panicky. He said I left with my son last night out of the blue and he's worried. No mention of our fight. He asked when my mom last heard of me and she lied and said last night. He made a noise over the phone, like angry sigh, and he said that he was going to keep searching for me. That he's worried something bad has happened or will happen to me and my son. When my mom hung up, she pulled me into a hug. I guess I had started crying and didn't realize it. She was still hugging me when she asked how I wanted to proceed, if I was done with him for good. I said I was. She nodded and told me the first thing I was going to do was go to the police. I didn't have any proof about the box cutter situation. It would come down to my word versus his. If he had even nicked me a little, I'd have a case against him. But since he technically didn't hurt me, the detective said he's seen cases similar to mine thrown out. The officer did bring up ex-parties and suggested I get one for both me and my son immediately. I went to the courthouse to get the paperwork filled out. I had to detail as much as I could remember from last night. every word in action. My mom helped me when we got them turned in and moved into the next step, calling my landlord. I've been living in the same house for 2 years. The first year was a lease and now I pay month to month. Everything is in my name and most of the furniture is mine. I told my landlord what was briefly going on and that I was putting in my 30-day notice. My mom has a guest room and she's insisting that I stay in. After getting off the phone with him, I called the utilities and closed my accounts, water, electric, gas, internet. Next, my mother asked me what I want to do about my belongings. I told her that I don't want to leave anything that's mine. All important papers, knickknacks, clothes, furniture, all of it. I just didn't know where to put it, so my mom suggested a storage unit. Mom ended up calling my 2 brothers and they both agreed to help me move. I told them definitely sometime this week and my eldest brother suggested a police presence, just in case. Think it's called a civil standby? The county clerk ended up calling me, telling me that the judge granted my ex-parties. She told me that I needed to come pick up the paperwork, which had the court date on it. She also mentioned ex-fiance would soon be served and told me that I don't have to see him again until we go to court to make the ex-parties into permanent restraining orders. She suggested lawyering up, but I'm officially burnt out on today. I'll look into lawyers tomorrow.
My 20 female girlfriend of 2 years told me the music that I, 25 male, play during is weird and a major turnoff. A little backstory. When I first started having I researched into ways to be better, as I was a little stiff and pretty much had no idea what I was doing. I read online that you can play music and match the rhythm in order to put on a better performance. I searched songs and started slowly creating a playlist in which I was comfortable matching the rhythm. There are a few songs to my playlist. However, there's one song in particular which actually happens to be my favorite that my girlfriend hates and says turns her off in a major way. I don't understand why it has taken her 2 years to tell me she hates that song. It's a good song with good rhythm. I feel the way I fucked up is I could have possibly asked her previously if she likes the playlist or any songs she'd like to add or change. But to leave it for 2 years thinking our life is great, but in her eyes has just been ruined by my music has left the whole situation feeling awkward and I'm a bit annoyed. I pretty much played this tune every single time, so the amount of times she must have not been enjoying it when I thought the complete opposite is annoying, but also embarrassing in ways. Not to mention my previous partner. However, they never complained about the song, so maybe it's just her. It's fucked up the relationship, to be honest, because it feels awkward now. The other day we were having with no music, but I was still to the tune playing in my head. She recognized this and asked me to stop. I thought this song was perfect and I always along with the tune and feel it gives me the perfect rhythm for doing the deed too. I usually to the song and find it devastating she hates the song. Are you ready to hear it? Can you imagine to that?
No, I can't imagine listening to that ever.
The top comment on the YouTube for this song, a moment of silence for that poor woman suffering 2 years of this.
My husband is 30 years older than me, and before I married him, I was with a younger man for 6 years. This is not my story, by the way, it was sent to me on Instagram. So a little background story. I was dating my boyfriend when I met my husband. Now, I loved my boyfriend and he was caring and everything, but he just never had enough money to do anything. I was turning 27 and my boyfriend was not even making enough money to pay his rent. And I knew he was not ready to get married to me anytime soon. I met my husband through a friend. Let's call him James. When I met James, he seemed interested in me instantly. And even though I didn't love him as much as I loved my boyfriend, he was rich and he was ready to settle down with me. So I broke things off with my boyfriend and started dating him instead. My family was against the relationship from the start because of the age gap. He was older than my father, but I didn't want to let him go. Not because I love him, but because he had money and he made my life comfortable. We got married a few months after we met. Now, when I met him, he was staying with a younger man he introduced to me as a stepson. He was the son of his previous wife who had died about 5 years ago. He didn't have any other family, so my husband has been taking care of him ever since. Now, a stepson was about 2 years older than me. After I got married to James, I moved in with him. Everything was perfect and I was very happy. But one thing I noticed about James was he was never interested in sleeping with me. I didn't really care because I was also not interested in sleeping with him. I visited my mom for a few weeks and I came back sooner than I planned. I came back to meet my husband in bed with a stepson. It turned out a stepson was not really a stepson but his lover. I was not really surprised by this because thinking back, they always seemed to be too close to be stepfather and stepson. My husband didn't want anyone to know he preferred men, so he just married me to cover it up. I was very angry at first, but then he made a proposal. He offered to give me a large sum of money if I kept his secret and continued being his wife. Also, I can date other men if I want. So long story short, I accepted his proposal. I didn't want to go back to continue suffering like I used to. Now, I told my best friend everything because I never keep secrets from her. And she said I have made a big mistake and that money is not everything. She said I have sold my soul and my dignity to my husband. She advised me to divorce him and move out of his house. Now I'm confused. Did I really make a huge mistake and sell my soul for money? Or did I make the right decision? What would you have done if you were me? This follower needs your advice, babes. Please drop some below.